And hello, everybody. Welcome to Two Guys Talking Sports. I'm Pat McDonald with Radigan Media. He's Tim Burney with the Sports Reports. Tim, we're back for episode 26. Couple-week hiatus over the holidays, and ready to go now, though. We're going to have Troy Jr. running back and linebacker Brendan Gilliland on here in just a little bit. He's going to get us ready for their big state championship game this weekend.
It's going to be a tough game, but I'm really pulling for him. It'd be nice to see the NCL bring home a...
Yeah, we think it's the first time ever maybe for a state championship in football.
That's my knowledge.
Anybody let us know if we're wrong about that. But before we get to Brendan and the Trojans as they look to bring home a state championship, let's start in New York. We haven't been on since all our New York teams kind of went home earlier than expected, at least for some of them. Let's start with Waverly. What a heartbreaker that was up at Johnson City High School a couple weeks ago. They lose to Shenango Forks 38-35, I think it was.
I think they got a point. 38-39, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were up by 7 at half. They got the kickoff. They mishandled the kickoff, fumbled it. Forks recovered it at like the 4-yard line, punched in to tie it, and the rest of the game was back and forth. You know, they hadn't stopped Waverly all game. I think if Waverly returns that, just even out to the 20 or whatever, that they run the ball down the field the whole game, and they would have been in good shape. But that one miscue really set up the rest of the game, and
Waverly comes back. They take the lead with under a minute to go, and then a big kick return by Bender, I think it is, for Forks. And I'm not sure if he did it on purpose, Bender, the guy that ran it back for Forks, but he ran himself out of bounds. Hogenshaw, the kicker, was the last line of defense, and Bender went out at like the 35-yard line. I'm not sure in the back of his, because I'm not sure one move he could maybe get to the end zone, but he's thinking, let's not leave Waverly 50 seconds to work with.
Maybe it was that, but that was the type of game it was. I mean, Waverly was running the ball very effectively, but when they needed to throw the ball, they were throwing it up, and Xavier Watson was going up and getting it. And it was just a heartbreaker. I mean, Jason, I've been covering Jason Miller since he started coaching, and he's had some excruciating losses. Forks, probably the worst one was 2012. They'd won the section title in 2011. They were ahead of Shenango Forks late in the game and mishandled a punt that they shouldn't even been anywhere near inside the 5-yard line again. I think it was like the 1, and Forks punched it in and then beat them in overtime. So that was probably the worst loss I'd ever seen for Waverly. But this one might have been even worse because they had taken that lead with, I think, 46 seconds left.
And you're the defending state champs, favorite maybe to win it all again. Yeah. And, it kind of all falls apart there. They had trouble with kickoffs last couple of weeks, too. I think even in one of the earlier playoff games, they struggled a little bit with handling the kickoffs. So, just a heartbreaking loss and ends a run at Waverly. I mean, they're going to have a good team next year, whether you're losing a D1 player and Xavier Watson, Colson Keithley, who unfortunately got hurt late in that game, but he'll be leaving too and has been maybe one of your best linebackers and great running back and slot guy.
Forks goes up and destroys General Brown in the regional game. So you're thinking, they got a good shot to win a state title. And then they last year Waverly beat Salamanca 50-7 in the state semis. Salamanca turned around and smacked Forks around pretty good in the semis last Saturday, which really surprised me. But good for them.
Tioga, another heartbreaking loss there. Cold night up at Johnson City on that Friday night a couple weeks ago. Tioga comes all the way back. They were down a bunch. They come back.
Down 14-zip. They score late in the third quarter. Then again early in the fourth quarter on a long run by, I think, 81 yards by Shane Platukas. They had lost Jake Brown, their number one back. He had some back spasms. So Platukas came in, who he was like the number one running back when the season started. He and Logan Bellis, and he got a concussion.
Yep.
Jake Brown took over. And Platukas came in and had a big game.
All three touchdowns for him.
Scored on the first possession of overtime to go ahead 21-14. And then Delhi
scores and go for two.
And went for two. And I talked to Phil Newman, the Delhi coach, who I think is a wonderful coach. He's done such a great job up there. And I talked to him after the game, and he said they were beating us up. I knew we couldn't hang with them if we had to go to another overtime. So they went for two and got it. And, good for them.
Obviously ends a run of 7 section titles.
They were going for their 7th.
They're going for their 7th, so we run a 6, and
They've won 11 out of 12. No COVID years. So 11, going back to 2011, they've won 11 out of 12.
So tough loss for Tioga. That ends a great run, obviously, there for the Tigers. And Platukas is back. I think he's only a sophomore.
Yeah, Bellis is back.
Duncanson's back. So
they lose 3 key offensive linemen. So that'll be tough to replace. It's 3 big offensive linemen. I mean, not just, I'm talking 265, 245, so it's...
Well, you'll hear in our interview coming up with Brendan Gilliland from Troy, I talk about how Troy's weightlifting program is the best in the NTL. I think Tioga's right there on the other side of the border.
Probably. And Forks. I mean, all those teams that are there every year have great
weightlifting programs. I'm not too worried about Tioga churning out some more linemen because they're always... it seems like they always kind of replace those guys pretty quickly there.
Well, the game right after Waverly was Owego and Maine Endwell. And I was thinking, I honestly thought Maine Endwell would handle them pretty easily. And
they pulled away late, right?
Right, but with a minute into I think Bucksbaum returned a kickoff with a minute into the third quarter, Jack Bucksbaum, to tie the game at 21-21. So less than 13 minutes into the game, it was 21-all. And Maine Endwell ended up winning 42-21. But Owego played well. I thought they kind of went away from the running game a little too quick. They started throwing the ball a lot more. I'm not sure why, because they'd had good success running the football. But Pat and Taylor did a great job up there with them. Only 2 losses, both of them to Maine Endwell, who's playing for a state title this weekend. So,
yeah, Maine Endwell, obviously, they're Matt Gallagher and company. They're always the team to beat. And I saw on Facebook one of the news stations had the Coach of the Year poll or whatever. I've cast my vote for Pat and Taylor. Yeah. I know Matt Gallagher is great, but Pat and Taylor, I mene's just done such a great job turning that Owego program around. 60-some kids out for the team. They're losing 20 to graduation, right? And a lot of good guys, but I have no doubt he'll have those guys ready that are back next year to
one thing
compete.
When we were talking about Waverly, one thing we didn't mention is they're bumping up next year to Class B.
So they'll have Maine Endwell in their way.
So they'll have Maine Endwell and Owego.
Yeah.
So not only are they losing, they lost that first flush of players with Joey Tomaso and Jay Pfeiffer and Jake Van Houten, and now they're losing the second flush off that team with Cam Hills and some of those other kids, Watson and Keithley. So not only are they losing that group, but they're bumping up to Class B, and that's, Forks is going to be really good next year too. Most of that team's back. So I think Waverly is going to have a hard time, whether it's Forks or Maine Endwell. But I think Maine Endwell's
I think Forks is looking to be like, oh, great. So that kind of clears the way for us a little bit there, because Waverly's going to bring back Benny Shaw, and I think Hogan Shaw will have a bigger role next year if it gets healthier.
Ronan Cooper Robinson, Matthias. I think Matthias Wells becomes a big target.
They started using him late. Cody White, my broadcast partner, and I, for weeks, we were saying, let's throw the little tight end dump pass to Matthias Wells.
I've been saying that for years.
And they did a few times late in the season, and then they still. The linemen, Rockwell and Beeman will be back, right? So they lose 3 starters: Cherznowski, Hills, and JT Williams. Yeah.
So they've got some work to do up front, but they've got some big boys. And Dave Shaw's a great line coach, and they've got a great coaching staff.
Yeah.
So
Debo and those guys.
They'll coach them up, and they'll be back to competing.
Maine Endwell will compete for a state title. I believe that's Saturday, I think, for them.
Yeah, they'll play at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock Saturday. So good luck to Coach Gallagher and those guys.
It's the only Section 4 team left. Horseheads, I went up. They won a section title. I went up to Syracuse when they played Whitesboro in the state quarters.
That was close.
But that was a good game. Well, the funny thing is it was 14-14. Whitesboro scored with about 5 minutes left to go up 21-14, or 4 minutes left. And then first play, Horseheads throws a pick 6. Well, ironically, the pick, kid's running back for a touchdown, gets tackled from behind and stripped, and another Whitesboro kid picked it up and finished off the pick 6, So they're up 28-14. So my wife and I, it's cold, and I'm like, let's get out of here, because I was just shooting the game.
Yeah.
And so we got into the stadium, and all of a sudden the place goes nuts. So I pop my head back out just as the Horseheads kid's going down the sideline on a 76-yard touchdown pass. And then they recovered the onside kick.
I was gonna say they came up a yard short or something.
21, and so I had to stand there and watch the rest of the game. And they got all the way down. They had a 4th and goal from the 10, and they threw a nice little. He rolled right and then threw it back to the left, and he had one guy to beat, and the kid made a nice tackle, pushed him out about the 2-yard line, and that was the end of the game. So it was a
great year for Coach Hillman and the company, though, in Horseheads. And Corning gets beat by Elmira in the section final, goes east for playoffs, and wins the game.
Monroe Woodbury.
Yeah.
So the first time, I think that was it's the second time that a wild card team has won a game in this new format over the last 8 years. So they don't normally, of course, normally those teams have been east coming west.
Yeah.
And this was a west team going east. So, that makes a little difference because.
Now, is Moravia still an 8-man? Are they still going? I know they beat Trumansburg, right? I think they met up again.
No, Trumansburg beat them in the section finals.
No, I think they just played, though.
That's right, because Moravia went out
east. So, I think Moravia beat them 42-0. So
no kidding. So.
I think they're playing for a state title there.
I got to be honest with you, I don't pay much attention.
No, it's fun to watch. I will say that, but good luck to them if they are. I think they are going on. We're going to talk more about Troy here in a minute, but let's before we get there, we'll go to the rest of NTL in District 4. Towanda, nice year for them. Gets a win over Bloomsburg. And then they lose the Warrior Run, who ended up losing to Troy there in the district final. But Towanda, good year for Coach Wecker and company. And
I was happy for him. They Riley Vanderpool, good kid and just tremendous football player. And Coach Wecker's done a nice job with that program.
Yeah, Vanderpool. I don't know his final career stats, but one of the best careers probably Towanda running backs had. They've had a lot of good ones over the years, but he's going to be right up there. I think we talked about Athens since we've been on the air last. They went down and got beat by Shamokin there. But other than that, I mean, the only District 4 team left is Troy going for the state title, right?
Last week by
we were kind of hoping Muncie and Danville could both make it too, but Muncie, Austin Johnson wraps up his incredible career there. Man, he just put on a show in the playoffs. They only put up 6 points in that
that's hard to
semifinal there. But
I figured if they were going to lose, they'd run into somebody that could outscore them. I didn't think.
But Bishop Guilfoyle's they're every year at single A. So let's talk Troy football now.
That Catholic school being Class A, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, we can talk a while about that.
That's a different story. So,
Troy on a roll once again. I mean, we're going to talk to Brendan Gilliland about them beating Southern Columbia. I mean, that was 69-28, just incredible. Nobody beat Southern Columbia that way. I mean, and I'm sure Southern Columbia people are going to remember that when Troy's throwing the ball late in that game. But Southern's done that to a lot of teams for a lot of years, and I know that had to feel good for a Troy team.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm wondering, is it wise to put up 69 on Southern Columbia? But I don't know Coach Smith if he's coming back, and then these kids, a lot of seniors and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. And what the heck? I mean, you have the opportunity to do it.
This is your year. It's a historic run you're on, and I don't know if all the starters were still. I wasn't at the game at Mansfield University, and James Franklin from Penn State got a little criticism from Maryland for letting his guys throw late.
He had a great answer.
Yeah,
he had a great answer. My job is to get these 3s and 4s times to play, and when they get out there a chance to play, they're going to play our offense.
Yeah, we're not going to just
perfect answer.
Yeah,
and I respect that. And
absolutely.
In immortal words of Jimmy Johnson, when they beat my Irish in 1986, 85, they beat Notre Dame 58-3. And Jerry Faust, God rest his soul, just passed away, was coaching Notre Dame during a couple lean years there and met at midfield, and he was upset. And Jimmy Johnson finally said, "Listen, Coach, it's not my job to stop our offense."
Absolutely.
And I have no problem with that.
And you look at Penn State a few years ago, they were undefeated, top 10 in the nation, went out to Iowa, up 21-0, and Sean Clifford, I think it was, gets hurt. And their backup quarterback came in, Taquan Robertson, who's been at 3 different schools. Now he's in the transfer portal again. But he came in and was a deer in headlights, and, they couldn't move the ball more than 2 inches. So,
right.
And I think that Franklin learned from that. And he's also learned from, and we're getting into college football now, but you get punished for not beating up teams, like you're supposed to. Like
right.
When Penn State only wins by 1 in Minnesota, they get punished for that.
We're back to that. We got away from that for a while with the way.
So anyway,
now with the playoff system,
we went off the rails there. But go back to Troy. They beat up on Southern 69-28. they roll over Warrior Run 59-14 in that district championship game, and
they really haven't been. They won their 2 playoff games pretty convincing. They really have not been tested.
Riverside had them. I mean, it was close in going into the third quarter, but then they pull away. So it's Jimmy Smith is a great coach, but this is a challenge coming up. Brandon's going to talk about it. Central Clarion out west there, right? Western PA.
Pittsburgh area, yeah.
They're going to meet up at Cumberland Valley High School at Mechanicsburg this Friday at 1:00. And Troy's the number 1 team in the state. They're ranked, but rankings don't mean much. I mean, I've done rankings before when I was working in Maine. They'd have me vote on the state rankings, and I'd be like, I see 10% of the team split.
They're very subjective, and So no, I agree with you. It is going to be that's the beauty of Pennsylvania.
We'll find out.
They prove it on the field. But I was saying, Troy has not been tested since week 1. It'll be interesting to see how they respond if somebody presses them into the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
I think Central Clarion will. This is going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I think Brendan said the quarterback for Central Clarion's got 50 touchdowns or something.
That just throwing
the ball. So
25 running the ball.
But Troy's got. I mean, they've spread the love. I'm looking at some of their stats. I'm not sure how up to date the NTL sports.com is, but I mean, Gilliland's over 1,200 yards according to this at least. Woodward, the quarterback, 800 yards rushing. Cal Millard, 500. Spencer Martin, almost 500. Mason Smith, almost 500. So, and then Woodward throwing the ball over 1,600 yards. So
last week I was watching a game, and they Troy just kept pounding the football, running here, running there, and at one point, the announcer, you could hear the announcer. Might have been Shane Wilbur because you could hear him, everywhere, say that, that they're bringing up 10, 11 guys into the box to stop the run. I'm thinking, just throw one over top then. Yeah. 2 plays later, 50-yard touchdown pass. Troy, God bless him, great coach, but there is a time to throw the football. When and
they've expanded over the last couple of years.
A little bit.
I mean, Evan's thrown for 1,500 yards this year, so they've definitely thrown more.
But how many completions do you have?
I don't know if is it 76 of 111 according to NTL. I'm not sure how up to date these stats are.
That tells you that percentage is
21 yards
70%, right?
Yeah.
So they're hitting big plays because people are coming up to
20
stop
touchdowns, 20 touchdowns against 2 picks. So Evan Woodward, he's been in there for a long time, and he's a gamer, and I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm hoping to go down there. Might be on the radio down there. We'll see, but it should be fun. We think it's the first time ever NTL team's playing for a state championship in football in Pennsylvania, which is tough to do. And I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of Troy fans and Troy adjacent fans of NTL.
And then there'll be a lot more watching on NFHS and everything else.
We won't talk about NFHS. That's another story. But it's going to be fun to watch, though, and it's just awesome to see this Troy team, just a hardworking group. And we talked to Evan Woodward a couple weeks ago here on the podcast, and is that who you asked who the beasts in the weight room are, and he named 38 guys. Yeah, exactly, yeah. So they all work hard, and it's great to see, and it should be fun, I think. I
think this is going to be their toughest challenge of the year by far. And they struggled. They beat Dover 8-3 first week of the year. It's
going 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly. So I throw that one out the window. This is going to be a tough game.
And it's great for the NTL, I think. If they can bring home a state championship, it'll be one heck of a parade in Troy Borough.
Look at this. I mean, the last 3-4 years, we've had
Canton twice.
2 semis, Muncie this year in the semis, and Troy now in the finals.
And South Williamsport.
State
semis last year. So
the NTL's been doing okay.
The no talent league is no more, at least on the top side of everything there. So it's great to see Troy. We're hoping we're pulling for them to win a state title. And we'll hear from Brendan Gilliland from the Troy Trojans right now here on Two Guys Talking Sports. And joining us now here on Two Guys Talking Sports is Troy Jr. Brendan Gilliland. How are we doing tonight, Brendan?
Doing good. How are you guys?
Doing really well. You must be doing well. You're heading to the state championship game this Friday afternoon, taking on Central Clarion down there at Cumberland Valley High School in Mechanicsburg. What's this week of practice been like?
Just been more of the same of every other week. We reviewed the film yesterday, and we just went over our game plan, and we're just doing everything in practice this week to get ready for it. And They have a really good quarterback and a big line, so we got to shut that down.
So before we get into this week, let's talk a little bit. I want to go back. Last year, you guys lose to Southern Columbia, who goes on to win a state title. You lose in the District 4 championship game. This year, you get a little chance at some sweet revenge, and most teams don't take advantage of that. Your thoughts. Tell me a little bit about that game and how you guys were feeling after putting 69 on Southern Columbia.
Now, that was a lot of fun. It was awesome, and we went into that game with a lot of energy and a lot of confidence, and obviously it went well for us. I think we might have actually celebrated that win more than we did any of our other wins.
So you guys had no fear going into that game?
Not really, not much. We reviewed the film, and we were pretty confident going into there what we had on them.
Obviously, that game was your first one up at Mansfield University, right? What was it like playing at Mansfield, kind of a home away from home for you in districts?
It was great. Our fan base is great around the area, and obviously we love to play at Alpron, but that field gets a little messy towards the end of the season, so the turf kind of helps us out a little bit there.
You guys haven't really been tested since the Dover game. And a lot of times this year you didn't play more than 2 quarters. Are you guys, as far as you guys have to do more work in practice conditioning-wise since you're not playing a full 4 quarters most games?
We do a little bit. It's just we do a lot of team stuff, and we get a decent amount of conditioning just out of running plays and stuff. So, it's a faster paced practice, and that helps us out.
Talk about playing for Coach Smith. What's it like? Been just playing for him over the last 3 years in high school, and what's his message to you been this week?
It's been awesome playing for Coach Smith. I've known him since I was a little kid, so it's just been awesome. And he's told us this week just to not have any regrets and go out there and play our best. And we got to prepare well this week and just go bring it on Friday and see what we can do.
Let's go to last week. A lot of times over the years, when an NTL team goes to states, they end up going 4 hours away and playing. What was that like to be able to play at Towanda?
It was awesome. We were a little bit surprised when we saw that we were playing at Towanda. It's pretty much a home game for us, and all the fans showed up, so it was great. They gave us some momentum, and yeah.
What was the key in that game to pull away? That was a tight game, right, going into the third quarter?
Yeah, we just had to be ourselves. At halftime, we kind of regrouped. They moved the ball well against us, and we missed a lot of keys on defense as far as our responsibilities go, and we just weren't being ourselves. So the second half, we had to regroup, and we eventually figured it out and pulled away.
It's got to be more difficult once you get to states, not only because of the caliber of team, but in league play and even in districts, you've seen these teams before, and a lot of times you've played them before. Some of these teams at states, you've never seen them play other than on film, and you've obviously never been on the field with them. It's got to make it a little more difficult, right?
Yeah, it is difficult, and it's different players and different athletes you got to look at, and just all the different elements that other teams bring, and different type of offs they run, and the looks they give you on defense definitely changes it up.
Now, as a linebacker, are you a big film guy? Are you watching film 24/7, or is it anytime you can on Central Clarion?
I watch a decent amount. I actually watch a lot in school. I have it on my I log in on my iPad and just watch that. So I just try to pick up little things as far as what formations and what they like to do out of certain formations and when they're pulling guys and stuff like that.
If any Troy teachers are listening, that's after he gets his work done. He's all set.
I'm sure they're okay with him watching game film this week. So tell me, Central Clarion, we were talking before we got on air here. You said their quarterback's a dual threat. Like, 45, 50 touchdowns through the air and almost 25 on the ground. So he obviously stopping him is the big key this week.
Yeah, he's the big guy. He moves really well, and their O-line is pretty big. So we're going to have to try to control the line of scrimmage and then stop him whenever he's running it. And if he's throwing it, we got to corral him in the pocket and just try to get him down.
Offensively, what's the key for you guys? Obviously, you and Evan have been a 1-2 punch for the Trojans this year. What's the key this Friday afternoon?
Just the same as every week. We're going to spread the ball around and try to use our speed a little bit there, and hopefully our O-line can control the line of scrimmage and we can move the ball well.
Yeah, you talked about their O-line. What about your O-line? How big is that to have? I've said for years, Troy, I think, has the best weightlifting program in the NTL. How big is that to have that? You guys seem to pump out big offensive linemen year after year.
Yeah, that's huge. We have some great guys up there, and a lot of times they don't get the credit they deserve, and they just do an awesome job. Makes my job a lot easier when there's a big gaping hole and nobody's touching me. It's easy for my rushing yards to go up, but those guys really do all the dirty work.
Is this the answer should be yes. I'm assuming it's going to be, but state championship game, is this Clarion team the best team you're going to see all year?
Yeah, it's going to be the best we've seen. It's definitely the best I've seen. So.
What would it mean to you to we talked earlier, I don't think there's been an NTL team to play for a state title. A few that went to the state semis, Canton 3 times over the last 30 years. But what would it mean to you to bring a state championship back to the little old NTL? And, a lot of guys around, especially in the southern part of District 4, the old no talent league symbol was always out there, right? They kind of looked down on the NTL. So what would it mean to you to be the first team to win a state title?
It would mean a lot to us, and especially our town. They really rally behind us, and those people love us. So if we bring home a state title to them, they're going to love it. Obviously, it's one of those things I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, that I got to play in a state championship game and win it.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of stuff's going to be happening in the Troy Borough on Friday afternoon, right? It's going to be almost like Friday Night Lights, the movie and TV show, and the signs around the businesses, and we went to states,
Yeah. So
talk about that Troy community and what's it been like to play for them and be a Troy Trojan.
It's been great. Our fans show up every week, no matter who we're playing, and it seems like especially in these playoff games, we've had 4 times the amount of fans at each game, even when we're traveling. So it's really cool, and the community just loves us, and they're putting signs on the road too when we're driving down, and we get to see them, and it's just really cool.
And I was going to say, talk about that. I think part of that fan advantage you guys have is not just the Troy fans. I've seen a lot of other NTL schools following you guys now that you're on this run and going to the game in Towanda and wearing their red, and even the Canton, they're your biggest rival. They talk about how they're throwing their support behind you. How big's that? Because the NTL is a small knit community, right?
Yeah, that's big too, and the fans have been out, especially at Towanda this week. There's a ton of other schools there to watch us play, and even when Canton made that big run a couple years ago, we were cheering on them, so it's cool for them to cheer on us now.
Well, you wouldn't mind to be the first one to actually win that state title, right?
No, yeah, I wouldn't mind. No.
What when you look at Friday and you're envisioning the game on Friday, what are you seeing? Obviously, there's going to be a lot of Troy red there in the stands, but what's it going to take to get the job done and bring home that state title and have the big parade and all that?
It's just going to take a lot of good effort. Everyone's got to do their job, especially on defense. You just got to focus on doing your job, and that's all you can do, and win each play, and hopefully we can come out on top.
Can I ask you, though, you said earlier you guys haven't played a day game all season. It's going to be a little different. Playing at 1 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock. Any thoughts on that? You think it's going to be, does it change your preparation? Just move the clock up? How's that going to work for you?
so we shouldn't need too much motivation. Usually on Friday nights, you get more motivation having a night game, but I mean, it's state championship game. I think we'll be all right. It's gonna be light outside, but no big deal. We'll be all right.
Well, it could be a little warmer.
I was going to say a little
7
more.
o'clock. So
That's true, and I think a couple fan buses may be going down from the Troy area, so hopefully a big sea of red down there. I don't know what color Central Clarion is, but Trojan red will hopefully be out in full support down there. We're looking forward to watching it, and that is Troy Junior running back and linebacker Brendan Gilliland. Brendan, good luck this Friday. Bring home that state championship.
hey, Valley's pulling for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you.
And we want to thank Troy Junior running back and linebacker Brendan Gilliland for joining us here on Two Guys Talking Sports, and wish good luck to Brendan and the Troy Trojans as they compete for a state championship. Before we wrap up episode 26, let's recap some other fall sports this year. It was a big year for some local teams. Volleyball, a couple state Final Four squads there in New York State.
Well, Candor won a state title. Phoebe Swartz and Emmy Mackey, key contributors on that team, ended up, they were kind of the favorite going in, and they followed through and won it 5 sets to bring home a state title. Owego didn't get out of pool play, but they got to the state Final Four for the first time, I think, since 2018. And Tioga got there for the first time in about 9 years. But they ended up in the bracket with 5-time defending champion Portville, number 2 in the state Mount Academy, who was the team that beat them last year at regionals, and then Stillwater, who was ranked 10th. Tioga was ranked 6th. Tioga had a rough go of it, 0-6 in pool play, but they've only got 2 seniors.
Yeah.
And they're going to be pretty good the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
I think all 3 of those teams, Candor brings back the majority of its teams, so they're the favorite to go back and win it again next year. So
Girls soccer, Waverly wins their first ever Section 4 championship.
yeah, an exciting 2-0 win over Shenango Forks, and both goal scorer were freshmen, Gianna Soprano and Renata Tweet, and I get her confused with her sister. It's Kaylin Tweet. And so funny thing about that is they beat Shenango Forks. Well, Tara Hogan, Waverly coach, was 0-3 in section finals going into that, and they lost 3. She lost 3 in a row to Shenango Forks back, I think it was 16 through 18. So they got a nice big win.
Yeah.
They ran into a state power in the playoffs. So Owego boys, they won a section title. Vassal Bridge and Kwame Vanscoy, and just a really nice team. Matt Higgins, but they ran into a state power too, and lost in the quarterfinals. But 2 great seasons.
And then finally, swimming, Waverly girls swimming.
They brought home 2 state medals in relays, and the funny thing about that is the relays consisted of 2 juniors, a freshman, and an 8th grader, both of them. They've got 6 to 8th graders, I think, that contributed this year, and they didn't have a senior that was a major point winner.
Yeah.
So they got everybody back from a team that finished second in the Section 4 with just 12 girls. So just in swimming, that's amazing because the point, but so it was a really, football teams didn't quite get where we hoped they would, but some of the other sports had some really big performances in the fall.
Absolutely. You should be, it was a fun fall season this year. We still got one team left, obviously. Troy Trojans playing for a state championship this Friday, 1 o'clock down at Cumberland Valley High School. So good luck to Coach Smith and the Trojans. Hopefully they bring home a state championship for the NTL.
Would be nice.
And next year's fall season should be fun too, with all these returning athletes. But now we're going to head into the winter season. Our next episode coming up, episode 27, is going to feature Addison Westbrook from the Waverly Lady Wolverines basketball squad, and we'll kind of get everybody ready for the winter sports season. I want to thank our sponsor, J. Lister, LLC, and Lenders Assistance. Give Jim Lister a call, 607-857-2036. You can email him at jim.lister@yahoo.com. Let Jim's 30 years in the automobile industry work for you. That's going to do it for episode 26. Great to be back after a couple-week hiatus here on Two Guys Talking Sports. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we will talk to you next time.